Sometimes the greatest heartbreaks isn't the ones that we encounter, yet it's the patterns that we continue to have along the way. Today, I invited a very special guest to the podcast. I believe that he has shown honesty. He has shown his true self, his authentic self in TikTok. And he's going to be genuine on bringing in the male perspective. I am going to introduce Three the Hard Way. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate you inviting me up to your platform.
Love that. Today's topic, we're going to talk about toxic patterns and cycles. How does that resonate with you?
Oh, man, it resonates with me a lot, especially the older and older I get. Just realizing that I'm not a perfect person, and
Mm.
unfortunately, I have displayed some toxic traits in the past, and I got to be honest with myself. There's still some that I gotta shape. So, yeah, it resonates with me a lot.
I was having a conversation late last night about the older we get, the difference intentionality seems to be when in regards to relationships and something about toxic patterns. A lot of the times we don't notice that we have the toxic pattern until somebody points it out or we've had enough of the same thing happening and no different results. So, have you gone back and noticed at least your toxic patterns in relationships?
Definitely. I mean, sometimes like toxic patterns, and this is just my personal opinions, don't necessarily show up as like red flags. Sometimes they kind
Mhm.
of show up in like what appears to be a good trait. But like one of the biggest toxic patterns that I could say I've had in just relationships, friendships, and just overall life was being a people pleaser, wanting to do anything to make somebody happy. Sometimes that would go against my faith. Sometimes it would go against my morals. Sometimes it would go against what's best for me at any given point in time. But yes, definitely.
Being a people pleaser. I'm glad you said that because I've had other episodes where I talk about being a people pleaser. I myself used to be one, and I figured that my people pleasing skills were sharpened in a form of, I would say, hurt and pain within myself. I believe that people didn't help me along my journey, at least growing up in childhood. So I developed this coping mechanism of people pleasing not for them, but fulfill in me what others didn't do for me. So did you, when you go back into looking at toxic tendencies within your life, what was your aha moment?
I want to say in around like between 28 to 30. And I mean, I wish I could say it was the aha moment. It was more of like sitting with myself and realizing that I've spent more of my life pretending to be who everybody else wanted me to be, whether it's like friends, family, potential partners that like sometimes even my own children. But it was more of just a dang, you know what? There's so many different versions of you that you put on to perform for so many different different people. Why can't you just be you? So I guess it kind of was a aha moment, but it was more like an eye opening sadness, you know.
I feel you. I get it. I think that a lot of people go through that. I don't even think that people recognize the aha moments unless they're actually looking for it. I'm one to look for signs and wonders out there. So I'm prone to having like a lot of aha moments throughout my day. But before I started my healing journey, it wasn't coming up. I was going through those cycles and then wondering, why am I back here experiencing the same thing? Like, I don't even deserve this. And it's that sadness that I think that you mentioned that propelled me into that healing journey to change my dynamic. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Men toxic traits versus women toxic traits. In your opinion, who shows the more toxic traits, men or women?
Man, so I love and I hate that question both
Mm.
at the same time. Man, what I love about it is that, it's the truth, right? Like both men and women have toxic tendencies. I mean, honestly, like we're people and we're humans, and humans have toxic tendencies. What I hate about the question is like, who has it more? I don't know. To be completely honest, I can only speak from my perspective. I mean, in my personal
Mhm.
perspective, I've dealt with a lot more personal and emotional relationships with women than men, so like I've only been able to capture the toxicity from the women that I've experienced, because I'm pretty sure I've overlooked the toxicity of my like a lot of my male friends, to be completely honest.
Makes sense. Yeah, because I was having this discussion yesterday on insecurities in men is shown more than the insecurities in women. And don't get me wrong, unless a woman is triggered, then you'll fully see her in her full emotions. Women have a tendency to conceal until they blow up. Versus when a man is upset or when a man is, let's say, having a fit of jealousy, sometimes it's dealt right then and there. Do you agree or disagree?
I actually hate to be so political, but I think it really depends on the person. And coming from a man who like can openly admit that I've spent a majority of my young adulthood and teenagehood being insecure. A lot of times my insecurity wasn't necessarily loud. It wasn't random actions. It was like silent questions, maybe a little snooping, but who does it? So I think what you're hitting on kind of goes for both, like both sides. There are plenty of women who have silent insecurities, and there's plenty of women who have loud insecurities. And I mean, honestly, I think the same for men. I think a lot of men put on this strength like demeanor behind closed doors. We're really just as insecure as women are for the most part.
I think that's where I was getting to. Don't get me wrong, this is not a space where we condemn men or we condemn women. This is a space where I teach women to have the posture of a wife. Having the heart of a wife is
Mhm.
different than saying, I am a wife. It's positioning yourself well to elevate. And even how we treat men, because a lot of the times we learn how men should treat us, but or we haven't really acquired the skills to how do you treat a man, how you make that man feel, how you speak life into a king. I believe it makes such a difference in this society where people are doing the battle of the sexes a little too much for my liking. We see that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I actually think that you hit that nail right on the head. Like a lot of times, there are good topics that people wanna discuss. However, I think people put too much emphasis on who does this more, opposed to why does this occur. I love your concept of the heart of a wife.
Yes. I think that the whole concept for me of Heart of a Wife started in having conversations about my life. And I said to myself, you know what? I didn't become a wife when I got married, nor did I stop being a wife when I got divorced. I became a wife when I had the desire to be a wife. And just like a job, you prepare for the job you want. If you want to be a wife, then you're supposed to prepare for that role and how it looks in your life. I think that's something that is kind of missing in the society on how to be the perfect partner, not for yourself, but for your partner.
Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely agree. You want to hear a funny story about that actually. And it's not necessarily about me preparing to be a wife, but just me being a man in general. And I was actually dating a woman not too long ago, and she was just amazed by the fact that like she never had to touch a door. Like, like if it was a car door, I'm opening it. If we're going into like a restaurant or to the grocery store, don't touch the door, I'm opening it. She came to me one day and was just like, yo, I really appreciate how much of a gentleman you are. I had to burst her bubble, just say, hey, it's gonna suck to hear it, but like this is how I treat everybody. I
Uh-huh.
hold the door open for every man like in every woman. That's just who I am as a person. Now, because you get to spend more time and you're in closer proximity to me than the average person, you get to reap the benefits of my character a lot more than other people do. But I'm not treating you special. This is just who I am. So it just kind of speaks to, just what you said. Like for people who want to be married and you want to be a husband, like you want to be a wife, you start preparing your character and and building your house well before a person comes into your life, so that it comes natural,
Mhm.
you are who you are when nobody's looking.
That's true. I love that you say that and that you do that in your natural everyday life. I think that we talk about performative meeting. You start dating a person and they bring the representative of them to the table in the first couple of months. And then you quickly learn that things change throughout the relationship. Instead of leading with, this is who I am because I've practiced this. This is my authentic
Yeah,
self because I've polished those areas where I knew that I needed to improve from.
yeah, yeah. I love that.
So, are you preparing yourself to be a husband?
Am I preparing myself to be a husband? Yes, man. I feel like I give these political answers, but the answer is yes and no. I am walking on the path of allowing God to really direct my life. And like the more and more that like I get into like my word, I have to accept the fact that not every great man in the Bible was given a wife, so like would I love to get like to be married one day? I absolutely would. If it doesn't happen and if it's not in God's will, then like I openly accept that. My focus is more of living the right way, doing the right, like doing will. I mean, I think if I do that and I follow that path, I will be on the road to be a great husband if that's in his plans for me.
I love that answer. And you're right, you have politically correct answers with treating it to both sides, but I think that that just shows like where you're at in life and how you're not one-sided. I believe that in dating, when you actually going into dating, you have to be coachable. And it isn't that you change your standards and boundaries or your core values, but you're not too stagnant that you're not a student and teacher in life, right? Because you ultimately want to teach your
Hmm.
spouse, but also learn from them too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the older we get, we gotta realize that two things can both be true at the same time. Not everything in life is black and white. There's a lot.
Okay. So what was one thing that you, besides being a people pleaser, had to unlearn, whether it's from your childhood or whether it's just the stereotypical man, this is how a man is supposed to be?
Honestly, one of the hardest things I had to do, and it's actually embarrassing to say, but I was a liar. Like I was a
Mm.
habitual a liar. Not necessarily because I like to lie. I couldn't stand hurting somebody's feelings, and I had to learn to be okay telling the truth and accepting whatever comes along with the truth. But yeah, that was probably one of my biggest toxic traits, was just lying to spare somebody else some pain.
Now, you said it's embarrassing, but I think that it's enlightening on a person leading with, this is where I was. This is not where I am now, but that was a version of me. And I have to accept that version of me, just like I'm accepting who I am now and who I'm becoming in this process. So I'm glad you noticed that lying wasn't the way. But I think we all fall short in that area of lying, whether we lie to others or we lie to ourselves. Because there's a lot of delusional people
Mm,
out there, including me,
yeah.
ones paint a perfect picture of a fairy tale picture, especially of relationships. So either way, we're liars in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that.
I want to talk a little bit before I talk about fatherhood for you. I want to talk about the in between stage in life where you're not who you were yet, you're not who you want to be. You're in this in between stage and you're waiting a little. How would you describe you as a man, this in between stage?
The in between stage, honestly, is full of work. Constantly looking at myself in the mirror. I want to get to the destination, like really, really bad. But understanding it's a process. So consistently looking like looking forward, and on occasion, not for like not sometimes I get I don't want to use the word depressed, but sometimes I get down a little bit because I'm not where I want to be. I'm putting in all of this work, and I don't always recognize how much progress I really made. So yeah, it's just continuing to work, and every time I feel like I'm not where I want to be and I'm getting down, just taking a quick glance back and saying, you know what, like you have made 3 steps. You know what? Now I've made 10 steps. Now I've made 25 steps, and just celebrating those small.
Listening to you is great because you tend to realize that men and women aren't that different in what they go through, especially in the in between stage. It might look different, but we still hold the same emotion. Sorry.
Yeah, honestly, I think women and men are way more alike than what we would like to admit, and I think
Mhm.
it's just a people thing where like we don't like to admit and sit in our flaws. I think if we all really unmasked ourselves, and could everybody could be transparent, we would find that like a lot of us are in the same exact situation, and we just don't know it because we all hide it so well.
Now, how does that translate relationship wise? Because it's different knowing or speaking to the opposite sex as friends, as colleagues, coworkers, versus when we're in the thick of emotional situations like a relationship.
But it doesn't have to be though. I think we as people make it that way, and I can only speak for myself. I try to be as authentic as possible at all times. So like when I'm at work, my coworkers and my boss and like my employees, they the real version of me. And then when I go home to my kids, I try to give them the real version of me,
Mm,
which in turn when I'm dating or if I'm in a relationship, I don't have to turn nothing on, like I
mm.
don't have to turn anything on because it's on all the time.
You sound like me. Stop it.
I mean, honestly, it's the best way to be. It's just like when you have an understanding of who you are, your strengths, your
Mhm.
weaknesses, your flaws, your areas that you need to grow in, and you can actually hone in on them and do the work and realize that the work never stops, then like, you'll be able to accept other people's shortcomings. You don't have to judge them because you know that you're in the same boat. And two, you don't have to walk around with that chip on your shoulder all the time.
That is so true. And so refreshing to hear because I don't think it's spoken about a lot in the mainstream, especially in the side of the men. I think that us women view men in a certain light and we might be biased. It hurts us when we start that dating process, when we're eliminating people based off of them not hitting the mark or not being there yet or being in that in between stage, and not giving them the grace in that period.
Yeah, yeah, and as men, sometimes we tend to do it to ourselves. Like I don't know why, but most men have these two pieces of luggage that they tend to carry around with them
Mhm.
everywhere they go, called pride and ego. Like I think one thing I've been able to do is strip myself of pride and ego. Tell myself you're an emotional creature, and I need to be able to express my emotions. I'm not that strong all the time. The more and more I can strip away my pride and ego, I can be vulnerable with the people that I truly care about, and like who truly care about me. The less weight that I have to carry because I give other people the opportunity to sometimes step in and help me carry the weight sometimes. But I feel like as men, we got to learn to be vulnerable, strip ourselves of that pride and ego, and allow other people to show up in our lives that like the same way we as men want to be able to provide and show up in everybody else's lives.
I love that. Strip the pride and ego as men. And I think that women have to do it too. I think that if we lead in our softness and the power that we hold, then I think that it makes it easier for even a king in his in between stage to navigate. And a lot of the times we want the finished product versus guiding or being a helpmate to a king, meeting them where they're at in life.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Which leads me to, you did mention you're a father of three beautiful girls. How did fatherhood change your dynamic and relationship?
Oh man, I love that question. I tell people actually this all the time. Fatherhood, especially me having all girls, has changed my life drastic. I know that there's a lot of people, men specifically, who love to use this word emotionally available and like emotionally intelligent. I was not an emotionally intelligent man until I had to try to figure out how to really communicate and relate emotionally to my own children. Like having all girls, sometimes they're moody, sometimes they cry for no reason. I had a struggle with them when growing up just to be able to get them to open up to me. And I found that like my own children didn't want to communicate their feelings to me just because of like how I would respond, especially when it was something that they wanted to communicate to me that maybe would have like they thought would have made me mad or disappointed
Mhm.
or upset. And I had to reposition myself and be able to be vulnerable with my children to get them to the point to where they're able to feel comfortable like discussing all things with me.
I think that children plays a vital role in our growth for the people that do have children. I told this to my therapist once and he acted surprised of me saying it. I said, a lot of my childhood wounds I healed through my kids on how I loved my
Hmm.
kids, how I raised them. It healed me. My inner child was healed based off of just that dynamic of changing the cycle of
Yeah.
generational, parenting.
Yeah, I think one of like the biggest thing I've learned is to I don't want to say control or manage my anger, but to really like sit and understand why I'm angry. A lot of times anger is not necessarily an initial emotion. It typically stems from being sad or being disappointed or being hurt. So like what my kids have taught me is to listen and to not get angry. And if I end up getting angry, then for me to take the step back and figure out what it was that they said to me that made me feel some type of way that transitioned to anger, and to be able to have that conversation with them not out of anger and just express to my own children like based off of what you did or what you said or what I'm hearing, this is like expressing to them how that made me feel.
Whew. Nothing like 3 girls to keep you humbled
Yeah.
and on your
Oh
toes,
yeah,
huh?
for sure. Yeah, honestly, not all men have the opportunity um, to to raise and see a female from like adolescence up to adulthood. Honestly, what I've learned from my children are that there are just certain things that just come with being a woman, and it's just ingrained. And I think from the male perspective, sometimes we blame people's mothers and their fathers, maybe your father not being in your life, and we take these specific traits that you guys have and try to find a reason to blame somebody for the trait when it's just like a female trait.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, men and women, don't take the time to understand somebody. I was having a conversation um, about enjoying dating. Back in the days when we were young, we enjoyed dating. It was like, whatever. There wasn't no skin in the game. In the dating, as you
Mm.
go older, you may feel different. Intentionality looks different in dating. But have we in today's society taken out the enjoyment of truly dating, making lists and kind of having like interview questions instead of truly getting to know somebody for who they are?
That's a deep question. No, I think as we've gotten older, I think that we have learned to take out like the fluff of
Mm.
dating. We know that that first initial 30 to 90 days is the honeymoon stage, but like that honeymoon stage is does not entail what the rest of your relationship is really going to look like. And I think as we get older, we know that. Like how many people have we dated where this was the man or the woman of our dreams when we first met, and then 3 to 4 months later we find out that like the person ain't really on nothing and it ain't hitting. But no, I mean I think that we still enjoy dating. I think that like we have learned so much from our past failures in relationships that we know what a gaslighter is. We know what love bombing is. And those are all the things that we didn't know before. So like we're able to catch it at like a rapid rate nowadays.
I know, and I also when I coach, I teach people just because somebody has a red flag doesn't mean that it's an end all be all. Because we throw these words also loosely, like gaslighter, narcissist is one of them, where we put a label on a tendency that somebody has. It might not be the core value of that person, and we're quick to judge. So, like, I'm glad that you said that about as you grow older, you start seeing things in a new light versus how you were seeing it before, that you could recognize what is it for you and what is not. And it isn't out of disrespect to the other person, me saying, oh, we're not compatible, or we're not aligned. Yet we could still be friends.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you hit it on the nose. Like, man, like red flags are not end all be all. It's not like a death of a relationship or a potential partner. Like the red flag is really just it's a caution. It's a caution
Mhm.
sign that says, hey, like assess this and ask yourself, is this something that you can deal with? I mean, you're not gonna find a person out there that doesn't have a red flag or that doesn't have have a flaw. And even if they don't have um a specific flaw right now, it doesn't necessarily mean that new flaws aren't coming in the future. But it's really just more about knowing, just like you said, alignment is this something that like I can see myself dealing with potentially forever.
Um, but I also love to say when it comes to red flags, sometimes the red flag isn't the other person, it's within you, right? You get triggered, and a lot of the
Yeah.
times we're scared of the word, oh, being triggered. And we saying, okay, that person triggered me, so I have to stay away, versus saying, that person triggered me. Let me see what's inside of me that needs healing at that moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love that. Oh my goodness, that was deep. That was deep right there. Yeah, absolutely right. I think what a lot of people don't like to admit that some of the trauma that we experience in past relationships, whether it's friendships, family, or intimate relationships, that like some things you never really heal from. It's just kind of like specific sports injuries. Like the doctor may be able to patch it up, but you may never be able to walk the same again,
Mhm.
or you may not necessarily ever 100% recover from something. And you have to be able to understand your triggers and find a way to push past them. Hopefully, the person that you decide to partner with is somebody that can help you push past those triggers.
I love that you said the person could help you push past it. I think that's what both parties are supposed to be doing for each other, men or female. You know what I'm working on right now? You ain't gonna guess. Hold on. I am working on how to flirt properly with a man.
How to flirt properly with a man. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Do you struggle with flirting?
no, but I think that if you don't use it, you lose it. In some
Mm.
aspects, especially the people that are healing and not dating and haven't been dating for a while, we tend to lose that initial, let me flirt with somebody. I hear a lot of times like that old school smile, flip your hair, bat your eye. That's okay. But I want to flirt intentionally because everything in my life is intentional right now.
When meeting somebody in person, if that is a thing that like still exists. Like, man, when it's real, you could tell, like, you could see it in their eyes. Like, you know what I'm saying? If somebody's interested in you, like, as a man, sometimes I see it like when I'm out at the bar, if I lock eyes with, like, man, with somebody that's across the bar and we have that 3 to 5 second gaze where we're looking at each other like in the eye, like sometimes flirting ain't like, it's not the words, it's just the
Mhm,
chemistry that, like, the mutual interest that's there. Now I think flirting in 2026, where a lot of these interactions are on like dating websites, on social
mhm.
media platforms. We definitely need a book on how to date online, because myself, I can benefit from that because it's a whole different ball game online.
I know. So, since I'm a coach, I do a lot of beta testing. So, when I sit here and say, "Oh,
Okay.
I'm learning how to flirt," I'm also not learning only for me, but for when I start coaching. I do believe that women can put themselves out there without leading per se, without taking that masculine role of leading or pursuing a man. In her feminine power, softly say, like, I am interested. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think the whole misconception of the man has to do something first is one, outdated in these times, and two, not beneficial for women that have been kind of in their house waiting for God to bring them a man.
But at the same time, us as men, we need to start stepping up and really honing in on like our masculine energy. And yes, a lot of us men are afraid of rejection. We're taught that if you want something, you got to go out and work for it. So, like, if you see somebody that you want, don't worry about like that rejection. Of course, not everybody is going to be interested in you, but like, you miss every single shot that you don't shoot. So if you see that woman that you
Mhm.
want, whether it's out at the grocery store, if it's at the bar, if it's online, like, fellas, we got to do a better job of not necessarily being aggressive, but like putting ourselves out there and going after what, like, the things we want in life. And I'm talking about not just women, but every aspect of life. We got to stop being afraid of rejection and go after the things we want.
I know. What's the worst that could happen? I know. Or the
Exactly.
best
Like,
that could happen, you could find your one in the most
exactly. I
strangest
mean,
of
yes,
places.
yes. I mean, I'm speaking to myself right now. I could have maybe been married, been met the person that I was meant to be with if I wasn't. I don't want to necessarily say selective, but like, shoot, I'm not above it. I'm one of the dudes who don't like to be rejected.
But then again, because I've seen you on TikTok and I've seen all the girls coming at you, you don't have a problem in that area, I would assume.
Yeah, I'm also, like I said, I'm one of the ones who need the online how to flirt thing, or maybe the women online might need it because I can't tell who's flirting and who's not.
I don't even think that you're in that position. Are you looking? Because then that's also a different. Like, if you're not looking, you're not noticing.
Looking and open, I guess, are like two completely different things. I'm not like every day looking to find my person. I think if I came across somebody that I thought was a potential match and both of us are mutually interested, I would definitely shoot my shot. I don't think I've ever came across anybody that like I knew was like mutually interested. Or like I said, I could just be reading it wrong because I've been single for so long. I might not know how to flirt or how to
You
read the
see?
signs that I'm being flirted with.
This is what I'm saying. For us, the people that have been withholding our love, not putting ourselves out there, if you don't use it, you lose it. I had
Mhm.
mad game at one point. But then again, that was my toxic self also. So, how
Mm.
does that look like now after healing, after doing the work, after all the knowledge I've inquired throughout the years? It looks so different now versus when I was younger. Also, when I was younger, I was surrounded by people. Now that I'm older, that I'm go either with my kids or there's not much room to meet people like before.
Mhm. Yeah. But I think you said an important word that when you were younger, like, you had a lot of game. And I feel like when we were younger, that's really all it was. Like, it was the game, maybe a little bit of what these young kids, specifically my kids, like to refer to as the Riz. And it's like the older I get, the more I don't have any game. Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
sit down and I'm gonna have a conversation with you about probably the nerdiest thing that, like, like we can talk about, like, you want to talk about some books, some documentaries that I've watched recently, and like if that doesn't
Mhm.
turn you on, then like you might not be the woman for me.
That part. I love that though. I think it's again leading with your authenticity. Not saying and being like this is who I am, but this is who I am.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and who I am today may not be who I am tomorrow or a year from now.
mhm,
Now, it's not going to change drastically, but this is who I am right here, right now, in this space. Is this somebody that you can see yourself building with,
mm,
and vice versa?
love that. So since you have three girls, what would be your suggestion when they hit the stage of like dating?
Don't ever do it.
Don't be like your parents. Uh-uh.
No, yes, yes. Don't ever do it. Ain't that what
No.
Paul like? Ain't that what Paul told him? No,
Stop
but
it. But you know how people when you say no, they say yes.
yeah. Honestly, my advice to my own daughters, it would really just be the person that you want. So like whatever expectation you have from like for a potential suitor, just make sure that you're that for yourself, or like already, so that way when you go into partnership, just like I said earlier, you don't have to turn it on, you don't have to rush to go to try to become something that you're not yet. Wait until you are the person that you want, and then you'll be able to go attract that person.
Mhm. I love that. That's some solid advice there. And then to end this episode with you, I'll have one last question. What would you tell your your younger you?
Yeah, I would tell the younger me the same thing that I tell the current me. Stop comparing yourself to other people, and that you got to
There you
run
go.
your own race. One thing that I think I've always done, I hang around a lot of older people. Like my friends have always been 5 to 10 years older than me. And, I've always compared myself to where they are versus where I am. And I've always felt like I was behind. It wasn't until maybe about 32, 33 when I realized, man, I'm comparing myself in the things that I've accomplished and the things that I have to people who have had a 10-year advantage of me. And that's wrong of me to put that type of pressure on myself. And I realize now that like I shouldn't be comparing myself to anybody. Like this is my race. I'm the only person on the track, and what God has
Yes.
planned for me is meant for me. And sometimes he withholds stuff from me because he knows that I don't know how to handle it properly just yet. So just focusing on myself, and running my race.
Correct. It's you versus you.
Yes.
I think a
Yes.
couple of years ago, I that was like my hashtag for myself, me versus me. I'm in competition with the old version of myself. I'm in competition with who I am today versus who I'm becoming tomorrow. And staying true
Mhm.
to the journey, I know with grace I am growing and allowing that
Yeah,
space.
yeah. One of the biggest things, most people don't become millionaires until the age of 53, and most people don't even hit six figures until they're between 35 and 40. I think our culture is probably the biggest culture that pushes like six figures, six figures, six figures, and we push this
Mhm.
narrative from childhood all the way up until God knows when. We got to be realistic with ourselves and say, hey, how many of our mothers and fathers, our grandparents, our uncles and aunties really make six figures? And I mean,
Mhm.
not at all saying it's not attainable, but like we put that as if that's the standard. And, like everybody should have pushed to obtain as much as they possibly can within reason. We got to stop comparing ourselves to what society tells us we should have.
I fully understood that. And I think you're absolutely right on comparing what the last generation did versus what we did and where they're at and having grace. Cause also we've learned and healed our generation, I would say, is that generation that now knows the value of healing, knows the value of therapy, knows the value of generational kind of cycles and breaking them
Hmm.
versus what the next generation is going through. I know I tell my kids all the time, I'm protecting you from all the things that I've been through. And thank God you have not have to experience none of what I've went through growing up. I'm proud to say that as a parent because I'm breaking that cycle within my generation, no lying.
Oh yeah, for sure. And shout out to you for doing that.
Thank you. Well, I thank you for joining in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your words of wisdom, and sharing your experience. I hoped you liked it here and you'll come again
Yeah,
at
I
one
did. Hey,
point.
look. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Hey, look, you have a new listener, so you know whenever your content drops, just let me know. I'm definitely gonna be tuning in.
Well, I hope that God continues to give you the wisdom and understanding that you need to propel you forward in however that looks for you. And again, thank you for being here.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, and you enjoy the rest of your day.